Hi, this is Mike, and we're looking at the Bitcoin chart. So, as time progresses, my view becomes a bit clearer because we see more waves unfold. But that doesn't mean mistakes won't be made along the way. So, in thinking this was a D wave, now I think it was a B wave, and that was a C wave that we saw down right at the highs. So this idea is wrong down here, and this wave four expanded to the maximum. Okay. So we're thinking that it's more a case now that we topped out here in wave three. We had a sharp wave A. You can see the little knot in the middle. Didn't take much importance to it, but it is such a sharp move that it's hard to tell. So we had an A, a large B, right? We had that C wave down, and we had that D. Had I have known that at the time, trust me, I wouldn't have been bearish at that moment, except for E wave, which is fine because that's what happened. Now, I didn't know it was an E wave at the time, okay, but after seeing the type of move that it make, thinking that it's going to go down lower after a pullback, I started to see this pattern at the lows. Okay, so this pattern at the lows is what gave me this idea in the first place. I had thought of something similar to this in the past, but I think it happened around this area, which was still a bit of confusion around there due to the zigzag. But that's okay now because I think it's going to be a little bit easier now. Now, having the idea of this being A, B, C, D, E, it makes me understand this pattern, what's going on down here, a hell of a lot more, right? So there's a couple of interesting things that happened with this pattern in the last, 48 hours. For starters, we made a move higher in an expanded correction, and then things started to get weird around here. If you check out my posts during that time, you will notice that I was thinking that it might be a zigzag due to the failure of this first move to go higher, right? And also, not just that, if it was to be a zigzag, its first move was a failure due to the length of the wave A. So there's two key pieces of information that you don't find every day when it comes to this sort of chart. That's RES wave at work for you. That's why I can make these constantly update my view with very specific ideas, is because RES wave gives me all of that, which I created, right? So that's the first move down the bottom, wave A. We had an A, B, C, D, E. I said take a long here, right? We went up, we came back. The only reason I kept a position on to take profit after I saw this wave three come back down, I had to go to sleep, was a bat pattern, or was it like a Gartley pattern, right? Well, whatever it was a X ABCD pattern, right? And I thought, okay, that's fine. It'll come back, even though it doesn't make sense, right? Because at that point, I could have easily have thought that the zigzag B, what we're seeing at the top here, would have begun, assuming that I thought this was still going to be a wave two correction. Now, what makes the difference with that? Well, for starters, this, let me just zoom into 5 minutes. When we were here, right? Not only was this not a zigzag due to the length not happening, right? But then we started to see another move up. As soon as that failed, I knew straight away there's got to be something wrong with this. Is it a zigzag? So I posted those comments during this time, right? Especially around here when this failed, right? It hit moving average on the 1 hour and it wasn't happy. And I thought, okay, this has got to be a fail. And I knew it was, except it came back down and I thought, okay, this is looking corrective here, like it's going to come back up for some reason, right? This pattern here told me what I needed to know. So I thought, okay, hold it, take profit back here, right? Because it came back down on me. And I thought that was interesting too, because then this happened. So the one thing I've learned recently is that whenever you get a move that's going to look like a zigzag or a five-wave move and you get a weak move, that's trouble. But if you get something that is really much shorter, it's like, okay, is it going to come back again? And if it does, it's still only a zigzag, right? So it's still a zigzag, even though this wave five extended, it's a weak five-wave move. right? I call it a type 1 week 5-wave move. So how many types are there? You might wonder. There's 3, okay, just so you know. So what happens at the top here, I woke up this morning around when this was happening roughly, in a bounce or whatever, I can't remember. But the thing is, I said, okay, this looks like wave B starting, right? And I thought, okay, great. So then after a little while, I go, okay, cool. Maybe, and I thought this is going to be wrong, more than likely going to be wrong. But at the same time, I was just seeing funky waves everywhere due to this expansion of this 5-wave move. I thought, oh my God, this is so strange. So I didn't really do anything, right? And that's because after recognizing this 5-wave move being weak, I thought this is just too funky for me to understand it properly. And then I started to see, and I broke one of my rules, because when I see this move, I think it's a zigzag. I thought, okay, well, maybe this is bullish for some reason. Maybe the moving averages were blocking it from going, but it's going to go anyway. That's why it's got this big 5-wave move, big 5th wave, sorry. And then I saw this and I thought, oh, is this an A, B, C, D, E? I thought, okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, then if we break this high, we go longer, right? Lo and behold, it reversed down. And I said pretty strictly, I said, do not, go long at the highs. Don't go long anytime unless it breaks the high, because I thought, okay, well, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen here. So then it went down. And the choppy nature of that move, I just thought, nah, I'm going to stay out of this, because I want to understand this pattern better, right? So then I went back and looked through a few things, and I came up with that new, made those changes that you see that I explained to you at the beginning. And then it just leaves the door open for one more thing. If this is wave 4 and the first move is a zigzag, then what we're going to see is a lot of zigzags, right? It's going to be a type 1 week 5-wave move. That means that, like Elliotians would call it, an ending diagonal pattern, right? But I call it a type 1 week 5-wave move because there's very specific waves that happen. And RS wave is very specific. It's not Elliott wave, which was created like 100 years ago almost. So basically, what we're looking at here is what I think is wave 1. Okay, it's a wave 1 zigzag. So I'm just gonna start putting a couple labels on the chart just to highlight my point. I believe this is wave 1. Now it doesn't have to be that type of wave 1. It's probably I call them I like to say wave I. Right, I use the round numbers, the normal numeric numbers up the, for the larger moves like here, right? So what's going to happen here is we're going to see a lot of sideways. In my opinion, we're going to see A, B, C, D, E, right? And then we're going to see wave 3 zigzag, right? So it's going to be a pretty big move up, and then we're going to see, the correction and another move up and another correction. And it's just going to slowly creep up until it gets to the highs. And this thing is probably going to be completely toast by the time that happens. Now, that's the same pattern I thought this was. Why did I think that? Well, because it's the same length as wave 1, right? So I got completely side swiped by measuring this particular move down here. It's exactly the same length. I thought, this is insane. I can't believe this. So whatever, who cares? Big deal. The way I see it now is that we're just going to have to wait. Be patient if we want to trade the large portions of the moves up, right? At this point in time, if you want to go deep down and trade zigzags and stuff, well, if I see something that's worth trading and it's got targets and I can sort of measure it correctly in that, potentially I'll take the trade, right? The C wave, maybe, stuff like that. But at this point in time, this thing's already looking too funky. I want to see it develop a little bit more, so then we can start to build a base for the next move. And by the time we get to that point, that's when I want to start thinking about putting a long position, all right? Because that'll be the evidence that it is going to do that. and it'll also tell me ahead of time if I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, this will turn into a B wave, which this is not a B wave, right? B wave would have had to have been more sharper here and created a 5-wave move down and then a correction, right? What we're seeing now is probably just gonna probably duck down and retest the 1000 period moving average I've got here, which is these averages, moving averages are the best, 500 and 1000. In my opinion, they've always been extremely helpful, right? On the 1 hour chart, you can see what happened with the 500 and 1000 period moving average. I even put the comment when it was happening. It doesn't like this level. When it made the wave 3, that little wave 3 there, it came straight back. It does not like. And then when it broke up in the 5th wave, it was literally like a springboard action from being held down for too long, because we knew that it had to make that move. But unfortunately, I went to bed because I live in Australia. I went to bed when it was down here. So to me, the uh, I only put a conditional trade on to take me out to just capture a little bit of profit, rather than have to worry about what the hell is going on here, because this is not a predictable move. And I thought if it comes back down, I put a conditional entry at the lows, but it never got triggered. And that's fine, because you've got to play it smart when you go to sleep, unless you have a good idea of what's going on, like I didn't at this point. So what else is there to say apart from be patient, wait for the moves to start unfolding here? There's nothing to do, right? And you can see quite clearly here on the 15-minute chart, another reason why it hit there. It didn't like those areas, and boom. Not to say that it can't break them, because it tries to, but it just fails. Well, it failed. I didn't know it would fail. But, we're always going based on probability. Like, no one can really be like, maybe one day I'll be so amazing that I'll be able to predict stuff, but it's really hard. It's really hard. Even with understanding the waves, having created RS wave, yes, I have answers, but they don't always come in time. Okay, I have ideas, but those ideas might be based on a different reasoning, like the zigzag down. This is probably not B now, it's probably A, right? This is probably 1 instead of an A. You get me? So it changes it slightly, because the waves happen in a particular order for every single wave that ever happens, right? If it didn't happen that way, I never would have been able to create RS wave. So if you want to learn it, you can. You know what to do. Head to my website, check my profile. But apart from that, yeah, look, I'm going to be keeping patient for now and just observing, okay? Because eventually this moving average will be broken. The same thing that happened down here when it smashed out will smash out again in a wave 3, wave A. So hopefully you found this video interesting and informative. Thank you for watching.